joining us for the World Brief and review of headlines of the newspaper from around the world. Adefemi Akisoya. Welcome to the World Brief. We're not here to talk anything about Arsenal. Just let's do the show, please.
What happened to Arsenal? I don't understand. What happened to Arsenal?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought we were still 4 points clear at the top. I thought that's what happened.
And that's why I say we are not talking anything.
My fellow Ghana, good morning.
Yes, good morning,
We will rise from the ashes like a phoenix. We will rise.
Just like that. Tottenham beware, Chelsea beware, City beware. Let's see what happens. Good morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. We begin.
Batty.
Oh, Dr. Rubin! Mm-hmm. How dare I forget you? Good morning, Dr. Rubin. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. Good morning.
Thank you. All righty. Viewers, let me tell you what's happening around the world. We do begin with breaking news as former President of South Korea, Yoon Suk-yeol, has been sentenced to life in prison on Thursday after being found guilty of leading an insurrection when he declared martial law in 2024 and plunged the country into a constitutional crisis. He is 65 years old and he had been on trial since April of last year for that declaration of martial law, and the presiding judge said that Yoon affected the neutrality of the police and the military by dragging them into his martial law plot. And as we reported in the World Brief last month, his wife, the former First Lady, Kim Kyung-hee, she was sentenced to 20 months in prison also for this issue, specifically for corruption, including the accepting of luxury handbags and jewelry in exchange for political favor. So very, very clear example of strong institutions that are happening over in South Korea. Well, let's move over now to the Board of Peace, because the inaugural meeting of Donald Trump's new Board of Peace is taking place in Washington, D.C. today, aiming to raise funds and support for the reconstruction of Gaza after years of conflict. However, major European allies, including the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and the EU president, as well as the Pope, have declined to join, questioning the board's purpose, funding transparency, and whether or not it undermines existing international institutions like the United Nations. Now, the White House says that more than $5 billion in pledges and thousands of personal commitments have already been lined up, focused on rebuilding Gaza. However, critics are warning that the initiative lacks clear governance and may struggle to deliver meaningful progress on the ground. Let's move over to the United States. In a landmark trial happening in Los Angeles, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has taken the stand to defend his company against a lawsuit which alleges that platforms like Instagram and YouTube were deliberately designed to be addictive and harmful to children's mental health. Now, the case, brought by a young plaintiff who is only known by her initials KGM, says that early use worsened her depression. She also argues that Meta targeted youth engagement for profit and failed to protect underage users. Zuckerberg has denied misleading the public and says that Meta focuses on user safety and does not exploit addictive features. Now, the trial, in which Google's YouTube is also a defendant, could set legal precedents for hundreds of similar lawsuits against tech giants. We are still staying with social media, this time in Gabon, because the country's media regulator has suspended social media platforms until further notice for spreading false information. Now, the regulator says that such fake news has fueled conflict and deepened divisions in the country. Critics see it as part of a broader crackdown on dissent, and that is happening amid rising protests over cost of living and public sector strikes. Gabon is currently being led by General Brice Oligui Nguema, who won the presidential elections last year after leading a coup in 2023. He's 50 years old, and he says he is facing growing social unrest, and that is due to many different factors of society. Teachers and civil servants are staging strikes over pay and working conditions continually over in Gabon. So we'll see what happens with their social media suspension there. Now we move over to South America. Peru's Congress has removed interim president Jose Heri for just 4 months into his term. Congress voted overwhelmingly to oust him over corruption and influence peddling allegations tied to undisclosed meetings with Chinese businessmen. Now, the vote to get rid of him went 75 to 24, and it deepens a pattern of political instability in Peru. Heri is the 7th leader in a decade to leave office early, reflecting chronic institutional turmoil as elections are fast approaching this April. Lawmakers are now set to choose another new interim leader to steer the country through what is clearly a turbulent election period. A lot happening around the world. Let's take a look at what's happening on our newspapers. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And This Day does lead with news that President Tinubu has signed the Electoral Act into law. And there are also reports that the Independent National Electoral Commission has warned that vote buying will not be tolerated in forthcoming FCT elections. These are the area council elections, and they've directed the EFCC and the ICPC to deploy personnel to polling units to arrest any offenders. In addition to that, This Day is also reporting that President Tinubu has signed an executive order, that's the story at the top of the page there, directing oil and gas revenues to be paid directly into the Federation account, and that is stopping the NNPCLs from retaining that 30% for frontier exploration and scrapping its other 30% management fee on profit oil and gas. Now, the order also suspends gas flare penalty payments to a special fund. It mandates direct payments of royalties and taxes, and it also sets up a committee while the federal government reviews the Petroleum Industry Act, the PIA. Let's take a look at the New Telegraph this morning. The New Telegraph does report that the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Rubadu, has requested a supplementary budget in order to provide additional funding for Nigeria's intelligence community in order to strengthen responses to terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, and other security threats. He's stressing that adequate financing is essential to improving national security operations. Let's move on to our next paper. I think we've got the Daily Independent up next. And the Daily Independent, let's take a look at it. Lovely, thank you very much. Reports that, unfortunately, at least 37 miners, this story just at the top here, have died and 25 others have been hospitalized after inhaling carbon monoxide at an informal underground mining site in Zurak. That is over in Plateau State. Very unfortunate news happening there. Let's take a look at the Punch because, unfortunately, the deadly news continues. At least two people were killed and several others injured after violence erupted during the All Progressive Congress Ward Congress in Idanre, which is a local government area of Ondo State. Happening there, suspected hoodlums attacked party members. It also set a vehicle ablaze. And as we said, at least 2 people have lost their lives in that political violence. Let's take a look at the Daily Trust this morning. And the Daily Trust does report that former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has been moved into the custody of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission following investigations after initially spending 48 hours with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, with authorities linking his arrest to allegations of unlawful interception of communications involving the National Security Advisor Nuhu Rubadu, while the Commission said that the nature of its ongoing probe has not yet been disclosed. So he is being moved from pillar to post, clearly. Now, let's take a look at the Daily Telegraph over in the UK. It is reporting that Donald Trump has launched a fresh attack on Keir Starmer over this Chagos Islands deal. So the US president is demanding that Keir Starmer not give away Diego Garcia to Mauritius. Diego Garcia is a very strategic and important military base on that island. And moving on to the Financial Times, we do have the news that Christine Lagarde, she is the president of the European Central Bank. She is considering leaving the role before her 8-year term expires in October 2027. Now, reports do say that this is due to her wanting to give the outgoing president, Emmanuel Macron, a say in any new appointments to the job before next year's presidential election, in which Macron is constitutionally unable to run. And lastly, we do have the Daily Star, and it's weighing in again on this Beckham's family drama. So what we have is Brooklyn Beckham has unfortunately decided to remove a tattoo tribute to his father, David Beckham. But as the paper reports, he has kept a £220,000 watch. Unfortunately, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate or unfortunate, but he's kept that very expensive watch gifted to him despite the public rift with his parents. And now we're hearing that Peru have appointed Jose Maria Balcazar as its president in the meantime. So just some breaking news coming out there. Peru has, of course, ousted Jose Heri, and they have now appointed Jose Balcazar in his position. Let's take a view of our thoughts. Dr. Rubin, we will start with you. What do you have to say?
Okay, very quickly. The Board of Peace meeting scheduled for today, according to Caroline Leavitt, will be attended by about 20 countries. Now, out of those 20 countries, you will have the team for President Trump. President Trump presiding, running it as if it were a cabinet meeting, except that the members will not be members of his cabinet. They will be members of what he calls the Board of Peace. The Board of Peace is also some kind of, self-congratulatory thing. He's been selling his credentials since last year when he missed the Nobel Peace Prize that is the world's #1 peacemaker. So this will also speak to that credential that he has been pushing. But the problem is that most of the countries are going to send observers, particularly the countries from the Middle East that have not agreed to be present today. They will send representatives, but most of the Middle Eastern countries have agreed to the membership. Some other countries are not sure whether they will pay the $1 billion that will guarantee them membership. Countries, major allies like Britain, like Norway, like France, will not be there. China and Russia were invited. They will not be there. However, Belarus, which has been supporting Russia's invasion in Ukraine, will be there. The Pope, the Vatican City, has been invited, but Pope Leo is not going to be there. And why? Because of this contradiction about the Board of Peace planning to replace the United Nations, even if President Trump has said we'll work in conjunction with the United Nations. Quickly, to the issues on the table. One, Iran will be on the table. Iran is responsible for about 30% crude oil production, and then 20% of global trade goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So the members will be concerned about, what's going to happen between U.S. and Iran. And then the future of Gaza. The future of Gaza, demilitarization, contribution of troops and funds to that rehabilitation of Gaza. These will be the issues on the table. Each representative will be given 90 seconds to speak. Very quickly, let me go to Peru. Peru is now having its 7th president in 10 years. Most of the presidents that have been removed on the grounds of corruption. This particular president, Jerry, he didn't go through election. He was head of Congress. And, his colleagues decided to vote for him to be president. But it's not that he has been impeached. That would require a large majority. What they have done is to remove him through what is called parliamentary censure, which requires only a simple majority. And what is his offense? He was meeting with a discredited Chinese businessman at night. Sometimes he will even be hooded. He will be wearing a hooded top. So those are the issues that they have with him. Now they will have to organize elections to have another president. 7 in 10 years is alarming. As for social media, well, in Gabon, the issue is that since the election of the president, Brice Oligui, workers have been protesting, either in the health sector, education sector, or every sector, about condition of pay, about welfare. And this now has become a problem. But the thing to say to them is not about banning social media, it's about good governance. It's not about saying there's a lot of misinformation. It's about good governance, which the people of Gabon say they are not receiving.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, real quickly. I'm sorry, you said Board of Peace by Trump?
That's what he calls it.
I think it's more or less the Board of Pieces and Hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Did you see the report that was released yesterday that says actually the number of people that died in the first 2 years of the war in Gaza was actually 75,000 people? Mm-hmm. So it was even more than was anticipated. Which bomb, I'm sorry, did they use to bomb the people of Gaza? It's not an American bomb. And Donald Trump is saying all of this. Do you know that America expended close to $20 to $30 billion on the Israelis bombing Gaza? And at the same time, Trump has brought people together and said they want to collect money for them to reconstruct the same Gaza America bombed. And the hypocritical fellows that are following. Do you know that the country, one of the countries that he invited to the Board of Peace, Belarus, is under sanctions by America because of the role they played in the Ukraine war? Does that seem peaceful to you? Do you also remember that Russia has actually put nuclear weapons around Belarus now to be able to safeguard them for supporting Russia in killing the Ukrainian people? So what is Trump saying? I mean, this hypocrisy and those that kowtow to this man is so loud that I can't understand the level of hypocrisy they're dealing with. Then he calls on people like Tony Blair, other people to join him on this wild goose chase of hypocrisy. It's just like the same hypocrisy that the African Union extended to Bryce Nguema by saying that a military officer had muscled and forced himself into leadership in a democratic election, and now you are saying you are welcoming back to the African Union fold, but this man is stopping and stifling voices by shutting down social media. This man is an autocrat. Why would the African Union embrace him? Because he did election, just like the Guinean guy too. That's the level of hypocrisy that pans out. So, you see, across the lines, you don't even know where to start with this level of hypocrisy. There are protests in the country against the president of, Gabon. And he's stifling opposition voices. And this was the same person that removed Bongo's son from power, saying Bongo had overstayed his welcome. Is he not doing worse than the things Bongo did? Yes, I mean, when will Africa be free? So, I mean, we're just peddling a lot of hypocrisy on the part of all of these people. So it's more or less the board of hypocrisy, not the board of peace.
All right, okay, let me take the story of Gabon side by side, the story of Mark Zuckerberg and him testifying lawsuits that Facebook targeted young people, underage people through its app, and this discontent, or perhaps a review of the way in which we now receive social media and a recognition of the harm of social media, particularly to young people. This is also at the same time where countries are mulling the idea of legislation to ban underage, under 16, and that age group from accessing social media platforms. We saw that start in Australia. Now in Europe, we see a number of people. I say this because Gabon, and I'll come to the political side of it, has put forward a case saying that the reason why they have banned social media is as a result of misinformation, defamatory remarks, what is being put there. And I'm saying that it's not far from the global response to what seems like a management for how social media is consumed and the dangers therein. However, the bigger conversation, though, in Gabon is that the solution in African countries, when it's time to, silence dissenting voices under the guise of social media mismanagement, is to ban. We saw this happen in Nigeria when one of the social media platforms was banned for a period of time. And aside from the politicization of it, the other part of it is that these leaders don't actually consider the arguments for or the benefits of social media, especially to small business owners. I was reading an article based on the responses of some business owners in Gabon following the ban of social media and how it will have a negative impact on their businesses. Many of these people don't provide the infrastructure or enabling environments for small businesses to thrive in their country. And then the little leverage they have through the platform of social media is taken away from them because of political reasons. And in this instance, even though they have cited the fact that, there's disinformation, it is because we know the underlying reason. President Nguema came into power last year after an election following a coup with over 90% of the vote. Beyond what has been said as to the manner in which he came in, is also this discontent has already been cited by some workers who have said they've not been paid or unfair conditions of service. And so my point is that Yes, there's a conversation around the dangers of social media, disinformation, targeting of young people, the use by underage people. And this is, African leaders leverage this to ban. But a bigger conversation is the fact that they ban it without due consideration. Other countries are having lawsuits, bringing them, Congress hearings and all that, not an outright ban or regulating it for younger people. But the solution of African leaders is to ban. And then number two, it is used as a weapon to silence the voices of the people or the voice of the opposition, as we see in some African countries. And so it's just the way things are different in two places. In Peru, elections come on the 12th of April. So Balcaza is not in that seat for a very long time. He will just manage that process. If there's there's no clear majority, they would go to a runoff in June. But, congratulations to him. This is also where we see allegations of corruption or corrupt practices punished almost immediately, and a new leader emerges, in this instance of Jose Maria Balcaza. But thank you so much for Adifemi for your time with us this morning. Look forward to more stories tomorrow with you.